Hello. Thousands of Palestinians in Gaza are heading back to their homes, or what is left of them, after Israel announced that a ceasefire is now in effect in Gaza. Well, these are live pictures now of a steady stream of displaced Palestinians trudging north along the coast of Gaza back towards Gaza City, which was until very recently the scene of that ferocious Israeli ground offensive and aerial bombardment. Well, Israel says its forces have now withdrawn to the lines within Gaza that were set out in the ceasefire agreement. And as for Hamas, it now has until Monday morning to release all the Israeli hostages, 20 who are still believed to be alive, and the bodies of 28 others thought to be dead. In return, Israel has published a list of 250 Palestinian prisoners and detainees who are to be released in exchange. Well, meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said in a televised address that his country's troops will stay in Gaza to make sure Hamas disarms in future stages of the ceasefire plan. Our Middle East correspondent Hugo Beshega has this report.
By the road, they waited, with a few things that were now everything they had. Unsure if it was safe to return, unsure if the bombs had stopped falling. The deal had brought them hope, but this morning they still didn't know if it had finally brought them peace. My son and I slept here last night, on the pavement, in the cold, waiting to go back home, Wael says. Even if the house is destroyed, even if it's just rubble, we'll go back, put up a tent, and return to our people. After hours of uncertainty, the Israeli military confirmed that the ceasefire had started. Israeli troops have pulled back from some parts, but under the deal, they still occupy over half of Gaza. Many now are going back, even by foot, to mourn who's been lost and to start rebuilding what's been destroyed. In Israel, the countdown for the release of the hostages has begun. 20 are believed to remain alive. One of them is Segev Hafon, kidnapped at the Nova Music Festival.
We hope that he returns safe and sound, and we wish that, with God's help, within the next 2 or 3 days, we will see him. We'll rejoice together with the family. And we really hope that everyone, not just him, returns safe and sound.
It's still not clear when and where the hostages will be freed. The deal brokered by Trump is a major victory, but there's no clear plan for what happens in Gaza next.
The point now is that we need countries coming together to make peace a reality and to actually make it happen, because this is still a fragile process, but it's one that there is huge momentum behind and huge commitment to, so we have to make it work.
They can now walk without fearing the war, but the Gaza they know is no longer there, and no one knows what the new Gaza will be. Hugo Beshega, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, we can go live for the very latest to our Gaza correspondent, Rushdie Abu-Alouf, who is currently in Istanbul, and also our North America correspondent, Nomia Iqbal, who's in Washington. Rushdie, first of all to you, and I know you're talking to a lot of people in Gaza at the moment. What is the mood amongst those who are returning to their homes? And we saw them in those dramatic live pictures coming into us from Gaza.
Well, the mood in Gaza since the morning was shifted from joy and happiness yesterday to some anger as the videos emerge, and those people who are walking back in this huge march back to Gaza, they have received information that most of them, they won't find their homes anymore standing. We are expecting this line to be continue for days, because if you look this very small dusty road, it takes time for about 700,000 people who fled Gaza during the fighting to return back. Well, we heard that Israel would allow also the Salah ad-Din road, which is proper, more bigger road to allow the people to go back. But it is very angry mood, because the images and the picture from Gaza is really showing that the three main neighborhood, Sheikh Radwan in the north, Sabra and Zaytun in the south, and 90% of it is completely destroyed. And this walk is about 20 kilometers, and very few people who can afford this big payment of £900 to hire a truck, small truck or a car, most of the people, they don't have the money to pay for this. So the mood of celebration just changed to what we can see now, a live picture from there.
OK, Rushdie, thank you very much indeed. And to Nomia Iqbal in Washington. Nomia, we know that President Trump is heading out to Israel. What are his plans? Can you tell us that?
Yes, he'll be going on Sunday. He plans to address the Israeli parliament in Knesset. It will be somewhat of a victory lap for him. He will probably also be looking to put more pressure on members of the Israeli government, the far-right members, who, whilst the phase one of this deal has passed, they're still pushing back on parts of the ceasefire. There were talks about him potentially going to Gaza, but that, we understand, is not going to happen. There's still a long way to go, obviously, and just looking at the pictures and what Rushdie is saying there are so many unanswered questions yet. What happens to Gaza? Who governs Gaza? How do people rebuild their lives there? Mr. Trump is then expected to go to Egypt, to Sharm el-Sheikh, where he's been invited by Egypt's president to then take part in the official signing of the ceasefire. And Mr. Trump is an optics guy. He knows that this is all about ultimately how it looks, and it will be a moment for many pictures to be taken to record this moment in history. And I think if the ceasefire does fully pull off and there is enduring peace, this will definitely be a very significant part of his legacy.
He definitely is an optics guy, and one of the optics he was hoping for was a picture of him holding the Nobel Peace Prize, and he hasn't got that. What's been the reaction, Nomia, from the White House to that?
Well, obviously they're not thrilled about it. I mean, the Nobel Peace Prize has been this almost obsession, I would say, for the Trump administration, for the Trump team, for Trump himself. They released a statement saying that the committee had put politics over peace. But not to be a party pooper, I don't think there was any chance of him getting it this year. He was nominated by the Pakistani government and by the Israeli Prime Minister in December. But by the time this first part of the ceasefire was announced, the committee had probably already made their minds up. But I'm sure that they will be hoping to try and get it next year.
OK, Nomia, thank you very much indeed. Nomia Iqbal and also Rushdie Abu Alouf, our Gaza correspondent, speaking to us from Istanbul. Thanks to both of you. And we can speak now to Riyad Mansour, who's a permanent observer of the state of Palestine to the United Nations. Thank you so much for being with us on BBC News. Are you optimistic that this ceasefire plan can hold?
Yes, I am optimistic. Thank you for having me. I admire and I was moved by this massive river of Palestinians returning to their homes in the north, in the Gaza Strip. It happened at the beginning of the year when the ceasefire was announced on 19th of January, and they returned, and they are returning again, and they are determined to go back to their houses, to clean up, and to begin the reconstruction, and to set up tents. You cannot but admire and be moved by the resiliency of the Palestinian people.
Well, it is a very moving sight there, and we can see those pictures of that continuing stream of humanity, really, as the Palestinians head back to Gaza City to try to find what is left of their homes. But can I ask you, Riyad Mansour, what do you think in the longer term? This is just the first phase of the ceasefire plan. But later on, the plan says that Hamas has to disarm. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister has said Israeli troops will stay in Gaza until Hamas does disarm. Do you see that happening?
Well, let us, first of all, deal with the details of what was agreed upon. The people are returning to their homes in the northern part. They need massive humanitarian assistance. And I listened to Mr. Fletcher in your earlier program, in which he said that they have thousands of truckloads of humanitarian assistance, and they want to flood the Gaza Strip with needed humanitarian assistance, food, water, medicine, so that people can be sustained, and bodies of children would be giving the strength in order not to die from famine. These important steps need to take place immediately, and also the exchange of detainees and hostages. The hundreds and maybe the thousands of Palestinian prisoners who will be returning to their loved ones, their stories need to be told. They're human beings. They have stories. Their parents and their families suffered immensely during the years of their captivity and in jail. So that's another thing that will be put in place. And the withdrawal of the Israeli army from the Gaza Strip. I know at this stage they withdrew to a certain lines, but they have to withdraw completely from the Gaza Strip. And we need to begin the process of reconstruction of Gaza. All these things are the immediate things that we need to deal with. They are clear things. There are no disagreement over them. And then we need to be ready for moving into the following stages with all of its complexities and lack of clarity, and try to navigate through them in a comprehensive way, not only thinking of one side, but thinking of both sides.
But let's just look ahead then, because in the end, this Trump peace plan envisages this board of peace running Gaza with people like Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister, effectively running Gaza, and Hamas out of power. How do you see all of that happening in the future? Is Hamas completely finished as a governing force? Will it try to cling on, do you think? Will it try to cling on to its weapons? Will it try to cling on to some form of power in Gaza?
Well, we are clinging on our national rights, the end of occupation, the independence of the state of Palestine, the Palestinian National Authority assuming its responsibility in looking after its people, including in the Gaza Strip. Some people are focusing on other issues. We are focusing on what is really connecting to the rights of our people, the eagerness of our people to run our own affair. Gaza is not a piece of land free for anyone to grab it. Gaza belongs to the Palestinian people in Gaza, and the Palestinian people have leaders, and they have responsibilities. And we are the ones who are preparing and engaging on the details of catering to our people, especially our people in the Gaza Strip.
OK, Riyad Mansour, thank you so much for your time. Really good to have you with us on BBC News. That's Riyad Mansour, permanent observer.
Thank you for having me.
That's no problem. Thank you for having us, for being with us on the programme. Permanent observer of the State of Palestine to the United Nations. Well, now we can also speak to Olga Terevka, who is spokesperson for the United Nations Aid Coordination Office, who's currently in Deir al-Balah in Gaza. And thank you for being with us. Well, I suppose the big question now is how quickly can we get the taps of aid turned on so that we get that flood of aid into Gaza that the people there, tens of thousands of Palestinians, so desperately need?
Thank you very much, Ben. Yes, we are ready. We are ready to start as soon as conditions allow. And as we've said before, we need, in order to flood Gaza with aid, we need additional crossings to be open. We need safe access. We need visas for our staff. We need, guarantees of unfettered and unimpeded access and unrestricted flow of aid into Gaza. So we have 170,000 metric tons of shelter supplies, of food, medicine, and everything that people need here to meet their needs. And all of these things can be easily loaded on the trucks and come in to Gaza as soon as these enablers are in place. So
when do you think that will be? Because obviously every day is crucial. We know that people are suffering in famine-like conditions and have been for a long time now, and they are desperate for supplies. So when do you think those truckloads are going to start rolling in?
Exactly. That is extremely urgent, and we are hoping that it will start immediately. Obviously, the announcement of the start of the ceasefire being in effect took place at noon. It was announced that it took effect at noon today, and we're hoping that in the coming hours, at the latest days, we will have aid flowing freely into Gaza.
And do you think you have enough supplies in place, enough stocks to get in there in the initial phase of this sort of flooding of aid into Gaza?
So yes, we have enough, and we will have more in the pipeline as this begins. The process begins. As we have said before, we have a plan for the first 60 days to target really the most vulnerable people and ensure that things like food access, medicine, shelter assistance, water and sanitation assistance is targeted directly at these most vulnerable people. And we have mechanisms in place to ensure that this is directed directly to them. And obviously, this will have to be a continuous process because the needs here are immense. And everybody is in need of humanitarian assistance. But our priority right now is to get this going and to reach the most vulnerable first, who need it obviously most urgently.
OK, well, thank you very much for being with us. That's Olga Cherevka, spokesperson for the United Nations Aid Coordination Office, talking to us from Deir al-Balah in Gaza.